One of the things I love about jazz rock fusion is how quickly an album can pull you in to its personality and atmosphere. And that's basically what this video is about. I've picked 5 jazz rock albums that I've been enjoying recently. And what I love about this selection is that they all approach fusion from very different angles. Some are atmospheric and cinematic, and some are unbelievably technical. We've got Larry Coryell, Mahavishnu Orchestra, Luc Ponty, Allan Holdsworth, and a really great Scandinavian fusion album that I think deserves way more attention. So let's get into it. I'm starting with Aspects by the 11th House featuring Larry Coryell because this is an album that immediately hits you with energy. This is a really slick jazz rock fusion record that leans into funk and even has touches of R&B and disco in places. It's polished, catchy and incredibly easy to enjoy. Larry Coryell is fantastic throughout the album. His guitar playing is fiery and expressive, but the thing I really like here is that he never completely overwhelms the groove of the music. The whole band sounds tight. Mike Mandel's keyboards add a lot of colour to the album, and the rhythm section keeps things moving with this really danceable energy. There are also some brilliant guest musicians on the album, including Randy Brecker, Michael Brecker and David Sanborn, so the brass arrangements sound huge throughout the record. My favourite track here is Kowloon Jag. This track really captures the album perfectly because it balances groove and technical musicianship really well. It feels stylish, energetic and even cinematic in places. And honestly, I think this is one of those fusion albums that even people who aren't deeply into jazz rock could still enjoy, because it never disappears too far into complexity. It just sounds fun. Next up is Visions of the Emerald Beyond by Mahavishnu Orchestra. John McLaughlin is incredible throughout the album, but for me, Luc Ponty really steals the show. His violin playing gives the album this soaring, spiritual atmosphere that makes the whole thing feel huge in scale. There are moments on this record where the music feels almost orchestral. You've got layered keyboards, vocals, complex arrangements, and then suddenly McLaughlin and Ponty launch into these incredibly fast and intricate passages together. My favourite track is Be Happy. One of the best things about this track is the interaction between McLaughlin's guitar and Ponty's violin. It almost feels like the two instruments are competing with each other, but despite how technical the music is, the album still feels warm and melodic. That's what makes this record stand out to me. It's ambitious fusion music, but it never feels cold or mechanical. Now we move into something slightly more obscure with Sea Sun by Secret Oyster. This is a Danish jazz rock fusion album, and it has a really distinctive atmosphere compared to some of the American fusion records of the same era. There's a strong progressive rock influence running through the album, but it also mixes in funk, psychedelia, and these really spacey cinematic textures. The whole thing feels very immersive. My favourite track is Mind Movie, which is honestly the perfect title because the music genuinely feels visual. Klaus Boerling's guitar playing is excellent throughout the album because he brings this bluesy edge to the music, while Carsten Vogel's saxophone adds a lot of sharpness and intensity. I also really love the keyboard textures on this album. The Moog sounds give the record this wonderfully cosmic 70s fusion atmosphere. And even though the arrangements are complex, the album never feels difficult to listen to. There's always a strong groove or memorable melody pulling you through the music. I think this is one of those albums fusion fans should definitely check out if they want something outside of the usual recommendations. Next is Luc Ponty's Aurora, which is probably the most melodic album in this video. What immediately stands out about this record is how elegant and atmospheric it feels. A lot of fusion albums from the 70s go for pure intensity, but Aurora feels much more refined and cinematic. Ponty's violin completely defines the sound of the album. Instead of sounding aggressive or flashy all the time, the violin often creates these smooth, flowing melodies that drift through the arrangements. My favourite track here is Passenger of the Dark. This track does a great job of showing how the album moves between calmer, atmospheric passages and more energetic fusion sections. The musicians throughout the album are excellent as well. Patrice Rushen's keyboard work adds a lot of warmth to the sound, and Daryl Sturmer's guitar playing fits perfectly alongside Ponty's violin. What I really enjoy about Aurora is how listenable it is. Even though the musicianship is clearly very advanced, the album never feels exhausting. It's the kind of fusion album you can either sit and analyze closely or relax and get lost in. And melodically, it's a really memorable album. And finally, we've got Allan Holdsworth's I.O.U. This album still sounds futuristic even now. Holdsworth's guitar playing here is just unbelievable. His legato technique gives his solos this incredibly fluid sound, where the notes almost melt into each other. At times he barely even sounds like a guitarist. The album is also harmonically rich and unusual. Everything about it feels advanced and forward-thinking. My favourite track is Letters of Marque, which is just an explosion of technical brilliance and energy. But what impresses me most about Holdsworth is, despite how complex the music is, it still feels musical rather than purely technical. Gary Husband's drumming is also fantastic throughout the album and really helps to drive the music forward. Compared to some of the more polished and orchestral fusion albums of the 70s, I.O.U. feels leaner and sharper. There's very little excess. It's really focused on the interactions between the musicians and Holdsworth's completely unique guitar language. And honestly, this is one of those albums where you hear something new every time you revisit it. It genuinely feels years ahead of its time. So those are 5 jazz rock albums I've really been enjoying recently. What I love about fusion is how broad it can be. Even within these 5 albums alone, you've got funky, groove-heavy fusion, spiritual and orchestral sounds, atmospheric European fusion, melodic violin-driven records, and Allan Holdsworth doing something that still sounds futuristic decades later. If you've heard any of these albums already, let me know what you think of them. And if you've got any jazz rock fusion album recommendations of your own, be sure to leave them in the comment section below this video. If you want to continue hanging out with me here on the channel, I'll pop a video in the corner for you to click on now. Other than that, I'd like to say thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.